Right, so Liverpool are a mess. Yeah, the Caicedo deal, which we've now seen starting to reach its conclusion as he joins Chelsea, has put Liverpool right at the forefront of the news cycle. It threatened to do it in a really positive way on Friday, the Reds being decisive, bold in their actions to go and get a top player to fill a very necessary position in the side. But things have quite quickly become unravelled over the weekend as we head into this week. The Premier League season is now underway, and I kind of wanted to talk around it really because I'm not keen on throwing out lots of negative stuff into the world. I don't think the world needs it, generally speaking, but I also then equally get accused of being a bit happy-clappy and a bit like everything's rosy when it's not necessarily, which isn't the case. You know, I think most people who regularly watch what I do will know that I just call a spade. But I do have a positive slant on things because perspective always helps. I always come back to it. I remember selling Robbie Fowler in the early 2000s. I was at university and my best mate in uni was with me that night, and I was down in the dumps and I faced the floor, and he said, "What's up with you?" And I said, "We've just sold Robbie Fowler, my favourite Liverpool player. And I just can't really, be happy with that." And he said, "Yeah, I'm a Stockport County fan. We've got Carlton Palmer as our manager. Cheer the fuck up." Yeah, great. And that helped immeasurably because, yeah, look, context. There's a lot of people in far worse situations than us in life and in football. But where Liverpool are at is concerning, and it's not unrecoverable, but it is concerning. I just want to kind of get all my concerns off my chest. I've written them down, so I want to make sure I don't like to throw out negativity because a lot of it is just opinion based, and look, a lot of everything in YouTube is opinion based, of course, and even the positive stuff is largely opinion based. But I think it's easier to say nice things without needing to know all of the information, because you can say, "Oh, I like the look of X, Y, and Z." I think the problem is a bit of a negative spiral when you start criticising things without having a full picture. But here's the public picture, and some of the bits and pieces that I've heard in and around it as well is kind of contributed to this. And again, a lot of this is just me trying to get this off my chest, so bear with me on this one, and please feel free to interact in the comments on any of it as well. Yes, the Caicedo stuff has been a mess. First and foremost, I don't think there's anything wrong with Liverpool going for that transfer. Quite clearly, they were briefed from the players' camp. They clearly got a degree of encouragement that said, if you can go and get a bid agreed, then we'll look at it. I think Liverpool went into that with a genuine belief that it was going to be done, and you could see that in how it was covered when the bid had gone in. It looked done and dusted. It was being reported as basically done because that's what happens. They'd agreed the fee. Chelsea clearly weren't in the market to go that high for him. Brighton had set a midnight deadline. Liverpool had matched it. They'd accepted the bid, and it was just going to be a formality. And then something in the players' camp decided to do an about face on this, and that's left Liverpool looking themselves a little bit red-faced on this. So yeah, I actually don't mind them going out and going, look, there's a player, there's the best player we feel we can get. How much is it going to cost to go and get that done? Even play above the odds to make sure that it should have cut Chelsea out of this. But we've fallen foul of player power ultimately. The problem with this is that I think two things actually. I think it showed that what we've been speculating all summer is that Liverpool have been dragging their heels on things because they were waiting for a couple of situations to develop. The one we've talked about a lot is Tchouaméni. There was a real sort of heavy chat that Real Madrid were going to need to raise a few extra quid to go for Kylian Mbappe this summer, and that means Tchouaméni, a surplus requirements, would have gone back on the market. I think Liverpool were poised, waiting for that, making sure they had enough money in the bank to do that if that became available. Seeing that either wasn't happening, isn't going to happen at all, or was going to take too long. Caicedo's there, the season's starting, go for it. I'm all in on that. Liverpool actually being quite flexing their muscles a little bit and their financial might, which they don't do loads, but normally they do it when they've identified a player that they really want. The problem with this is that, and it's a bit of a misconception of the Bellingham stuff, is that Liverpool opted not to sign Jude Bellingham, not because of the headline price of the footballer, although the wages thing might have been an impact on this. They chose not to because they didn't get the encouragement from Bellingham and from Bellingham's camp that he was totally committed to Liverpool. They didn't want to go into a bidding war with Real Madrid for a player that they didn't have the inside scoop that he wanted to join them. And it should be remembered, by the way, that that's a lot of how Liverpool do business. It doesn't get publicised very often, and it's actually how a lot of football clubs do business in general. in Football Manager, you want a player, you bid, and then you get access to the player, and then you find out whether they're interested or not. That's not how it happens in the real world. You speak to agents, you speak to family members. It's tapping up, but it's like, it's all done like in a little grey area, in closed doors, in text messages, and, you know, like, you know, behind the scenes, basically. And so, yeah, that's the real reason why they don't push ahead with the Bellingham one, because they don't want to basically end up in a summer-long, protracted bidding war with Real Madrid, only to then lose it. And they had no encouragement to say they were going to win it. You know, they can agree the fee, but if the player doesn't want to join them ultimately and he can dig in, then you end up in a mess. We tried to avoid this mess and ended up exactly in this mess for a less experienced, more expensive footballer that is actually much more necessary to what Liverpool need in terms of rebuilding. So it's mad. So I don't think it's totally Liverpool's fault, but there's a sympathy, but there's a huge annoyance, I guess, on that perspective. The biggest problem with the Caicedo stuff, and why this whole situation is a mess, it's the knock-on effect to Lavia, because this has been, if you're waiting for a bigger deal to present itself, then actually how they would handle Lavia made sense. So if Liverpool just owned Caicedo now, you could say, well, actually, you know what, actually not the worst idea ever to slow play Lavia, because a better player came on the market. It's much more expensive, but a better immediate fit. And if you maybe push the button on 50 million for Lavia, you wouldn't have been able to avoid Caicedo. And then Chelsea go and buy Caicedo, and then you've bought the worst player when you could have had a better player. That's exactly where they are now, but I understand the logic of it. It kind of, that made a bit of sense to me. It doesn't make sense now. Caicedo's fallen through, and the problem, again, the worst knock-on impact is, what does it mean for Lavia? You've told him you don't really want him. You told him you want him, but you've told him he's not like a top target. Have we poisoned the well with Romeo Lavia in doing this? Because, you know, Dan Club's just done a video with Ian Doyle over on Redmen Plus, and, you know, he's not convinced that Liverpool are favourites for Lavia anymore. If Chelsea are going to continue to stump up the cash, there's a little feeling that Chelsea have now stolen a march in Liverpool. They've showed interest in the player. They've pulled off an absolute transfer masterclass here, Chelsea, and they're meant to be stupid. Liverpool are meant to be the smartest men in the room when it comes to transfer business. Not the richest men in the room, not the ones who take the biggest gambles, but the smartest, who go out and get business done and do all things right, pay the right agents' fees, go through the right back channels, have good relationships with football clubs to get good deals and what have you. And now Chelsea, who looked like they were just being a bit daft, have actually potentially just totally and utterly scuppered Liverpool's transfer plans in a couple of moves there. So in doing so, you've left yourself now with, what, who's Liverpool's midfield target? Does Lavia even want to play for Liverpool anymore? Hopefully, you know, if Liverpool's still after him, they can push that button and really ramp it up. But now they've left themselves having to pay 10 million more than they would have done if they just pushed the button on it a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. And potentially with a footballer who's not 100% bought into your project anymore because you've not told him he's your main man. And bear in mind, that main man thing is, again, I guess it's a huge part of how Liverpool do business. This is how Liverpool have been able to get footballers when other teams who potentially had more to offer in terms of money or, you know, routes to success in the early days of Klopp. You know, Liverpool get Van Dijk because we sell him. You're the main man. We love you. You're going to be it for Liverpool. Making a player feel special is a huge part of the transfer process, and we've been excellent at it. Van Dijk on one end, but even like Szoboszlai recently, you know, Liverpool have gone to him and gone, you are the guy for us, and he's gone, okay, well, Newcastle can get in the bin because I really like what Liverpool are selling me. And what we've done there is, yeah, how does the player react to that? Honestly, we can't know, but it doesn't look positive in Liverpool's sense right now. And obviously the problem with the Lavia stuff, it's quite clear how far down the rung he is. Where on that list of DMs, of Liverpool's dream DMs that they've got scouted and they've got analysed, how far down was Lavia? Because we didn't seem to be in the running for Caicedo at all. But they've clearly gone, he's available, he's right up there. We know Declan Rice has obviously moved on, Ugarte's moved on. There's been moves in this window already. What is the plan with Lavia? Is he only ever a backup, or is he now the first choice? And if he's not, if he's neither of those things, what the hell is going on with that? Who is good enough to come in and be better than what we were trying to do with Lavia, and what's that going to cost to get that done? Another thing, it's the tip in the hand towards the budget. Now, as fans, that's actually quite encouraging because, again, I don't know if you felt the same, but when I heard that Liverpool put this bid in, there was a great sense of relief on my part. Like, wow, Liverpool have got money to spend and they're prepared to spend it. So I think from a relaxation, knowing that there is money in the bank is good from a fan perspective, but not from a negotiation perspective. All of a sudden, you know, we've seen this with West Ham. We'll see it now with Tottenham when they're trying to buy strikers. Liverpool have basically let it be known that they've got effectively £115 million to spend. Now, obviously, that was structured and there was bonuses and they would have been spread over a certain amount of months and years and all that kind of stuff. But as a very general sense, Liverpool have gone from negotiating between £2 to £5 million, from 40 to 50 incremental increases on a Lavia bid, to all of a sudden going, boom, there we go, slapped it out on the table. It's like playing a really tense poker game and you've dropped your cards in the middle of it and everyone's seen it. And maybe your hand's quite good, but you don't know what everyone else is dealing with, but everyone now knows what you're dealing with. And I'm not sure that's great for Liverpool's business. That's a real misstep. I don't think that's their fault. Again, they've been fucked over by a player quite clearly, but it's a mess as a result, and it makes what comes next even more difficult, which is obviously a concern in and of itself. We've also seen talk of Billy Hogan stepping in, who's obviously the CEO. I'm always concerned when you see that, and look, this is where it comes down to criticism, and I have to be careful what I say on this, for no reason than I just don't like loads of misinformation being out in the world. This is speculation. This is me reading between the lines. This is not based on fact or insider knowledge. I do know that there was a time prior to Jurgen Klopp, the early days of Jurgen Klopp, as Ian Ayre was Liverpool's CEO. And he had a big hand in transfer negotiations. I've spoken to him about it. He's spoken to me about it. You know, he was at the forefront of a lot of deals. When Liverpool moved more towards the DOF model, when Michael Edwards got more power, he was a bit more central in these things. Now, it's possible that the Liverpool CEO, it's possible that Peter Moore was in these deals, taking over from Ian Ayre. It's entirely possible. But there's a distinct lack of Jörg Schmadtke in all this. I'm not sure who he is or what he's doing. Is he good at his job? What is he doing? Because so far, McAllister was bought. That was clearly arranged well before he came into the club. So Julian Ward effectively is that signing. And Szoboszlai is a release clause, and it's one that's not a particularly favourable deal for Liverpool. They had to stump up basically 60 million up front, from what I'm told. So that wasn't some great negotiation tactics. Maybe in the convincing him was a thing, but you know, at the moment there's not as much to point towards Schmadtke and go, well, you've been a positive addition to what you're doing. And if I'm seeing when John Henry flying in, you see him, rumours of Billy Hogan being involved in this Caicedo deal, that might just be because of the volume of it, about how big a transfer it potentially was. But I remain a little bit concerned as to exactly what he's bringing to the table. What is his role? Is it just an advisory capacity? Is he totally hands-on? Does he have or is it a lack of understanding and working in this, at this level of the transfer market, in the British transfer market? Is that maybe a little bit of an issue? Because right now, there's nothing you can go, that was definitely a brilliant move from Schmadtke, whereas Michael Edwards got plenty of praise. He's had criticism in the past. It's normally quite easy to see who's doing what in that. Now, Billy Hogan and John Henry being more involved could be a good thing. You know, there could just be something where your head honchos are having to sort of circle the wagons, they have to mount up and get involved. That could turn out to be a good thing, but again, it's a little bit un-Liverpool. John Henry does not, he only just basically makes decisions that we're not involved with, helps get them wrong, and then comes out and apologises. That's his general role. And him and Linda turn up and add a little bit of sparkle to big events and occasional pre-season games. To see him actually turn up to a random game of footy doesn't fill me with tons of confidence. It might be a good thing, but I don't know. I don't think it's historically enough to say that that's like, wow, this is a really positive thing happening for Liverpool. So yeah, it's all very unusual. And then for me, just to run through it all and just I'll list it. So we've started the season. There's no recognised DM at the club. There's at least 2 signings minimum needed. I think it's 3. I think we need 2. I think we need 2 guys who can play DM. Because again, look, if Chelsea pushed the button on Lavia, we played them yesterday. They had Enzo Fernandez already. They were playing Conor Gallagher as a place card holder for Caicedo. But you don't want to have your entire system lynched around one guy. You need to have a couple. Now, we might already have that in Bajcetic, so we might be all right. But my general feeling is that we definitely need a left-sided centre-half. we need at least one centre-half. It might be 2 midfielders and 1 centre-half, or 2 centre-halves and 1 midfielder, depending on how we're going to play. But Liverpool have got lots of business still to be done, and the football has already started. 2 games now until the window shuts. There's no clear picture on who the targets are beyond Lavia. There's no clear picture of whether Lavia is even a reasonable target for Liverpool anymore. Has he become too expensive, and does he even want to sign for Liverpool? That's a big concern. The players don't look totally match fit. That could be a change of strategy. I surmised yesterday during the game that we've seen City often start the season undercooked, which allows you to really kind of come to the boil at the business end of the season, rather than running yourself into the ground and then paying the price the season that follows. That feels like the strategy, but it still remains true. Some of Liverpool's key players looked incapable of going beyond 60 minutes in that game yesterday, and we're talking about the likes of Cody Gakpo, Diogo Jota, Luis Diaz. It's fine, we've got loads of players in there to rotate, but they do look, the Liverpool squad looks undercooked at the moment. No long-term DOF in place, of course. Obviously, Schmadtke, he's got a year contract, but apparently he can be called time on at the end of this window. No talk about that. Again, no obvious clear-cut wins for him in that role so far, which doesn't help Liverpool's long-term planning, because, you know, they need to not just be buying players for this window. They need to be thinking about what comes in January and what comes the summer after already. They've had to react under trying circumstances, partially their own making, because they sold Fabinho and Henderson, of course. It doesn't look like they've reacted very well to that. Liverpool planned brilliantly. Are they planning brilliantly for the future? It's hard to tell at this point. And just a random additional one, the stadium's not finished. So Liverpool are going to be playing with, what, 4,000 less people in Anfield until late October, when the Anfield Road. And I know this is all, so many of these factors are outside of control of particular individuals, and everything, when things are going wrong, it all points in one sort of direction, because it's easy to compartmentalise all Liverpool's problems and put them in a nice little phrase or saying or whatever, and go, well, it's just that. Problem is, Liverpool have got problems all over the board. They've got players they've got problems in terms of personnel, they've got problems in terms of system, they've got problems in terms of training and fitness. They've got problems in terms of transfers. They've got problems in the higher ups sitting between Jurgen Klopp and the ownership group, and who's doing what, and who's fulfilling those roles, and are they as good as the people that they've replaced is an issue. And then stadium and things. This is what I say. Liverpool are a mess, and it's not just Caicedo. In fact, it's almost nothing to do with Caicedo in some regards, but what it has done is kind of lifted the lid and kind of looking at what's in the pot for Liverpool right now, and it doesn't look like a well-prepared meal. It looks like a bunch of things, maybe underripened ingredients being chucked in. This doesn't feel like a smooth, well-oiled machine. And that's the one thing I'd say. There's been criticism of Liverpool's ownership since they came in. They've had it every single year on year, and it's kind of built up in recent years. But one thing is that there were certain things that just look smooth. Transfers they were good at, for building and increasing the facilities of the stadium, those kind of things, and just always look like Liverpool had a joined up plan. It might not have been a plan that we all agreed with, and we feel that maybe it could have been bettered, but it looked coherent. Right now, Liverpool's plan is very hard to follow. It feels like they're flying by the seat of the pants, and I don't feel like that's a great recipe for success. There's time to turn it around, of course. There's plenty of great materials within there. The soup has some amazing ingredients that might be enough to carry the dish. But yeah, certainly work to be done. There you go. Great. I don't feel loads better for it, but I did need to get it off my chest. What do you think? Anything you agree or disagree with in the comments, let me know. Drop a like if you wouldn't mind as well. That would be absolutely splendid. And if you want more of the transfer stuff, it's going to be kicking off in a big way. Go to redmanplus.com. Dan Club has that interview with Ian Doyle, a bit more on the Lavia stuff as well, and Neil Jones is in during the week as well. So yeah, we've got you covered from all angles on redmanplus.com, and I hope to see you over there. Up the undercooked Reds.